When I started shooting sports, I was pretty much in awe of the athletes that I got to photograph. Doing basic lighting like I would for a business portrait just wasn't enough. It didn't seem like it was fitting. I mean, these guys were almost 7 feet tall. I started to think about the comic books that I read as a kid, and I've always been into comic books. And I would envision our athletes like superheroes, because essentially that's what they are. Our high school kids especially, there's no pay involved. So they are superheroes. They're doing what they do because they love to do it. I've always wanted pictures that were technically perfect. So in photography, I started out as a technician. Everything had to be just right. If I didn't produce what I saw in my head, I failed. I'm still like that to some extent today. That's not always practical because conditions change, especially on location. For Fields is just, he's brute strength. He's not a giant lineman, but he has great technique. He has a lot of experience, and he's strong as an ox. All right, let's have some breakfast. There's nothing more inspiring than shooting people who are passionate about what they do, and that's one of the things that Skyview gave to me. I hadn't photographed action sports in over a decade in 2007. Me shooting Skyview football was kind of a thank you, which my wife told me to do, for the coaches and the players that helped my son with his first year of football. And that inspired me. It gave me a spark again. On the way to our latest shoot, what I saw was Cody Watts' arm and big giant hand. I wanted to emphasize that. He's an incredible pitcher. He's going to be our starting quarterback this year. Carl Graves, golden hands. I just see over and over again the posture that Carl takes after he scores a touchdown by catching a pass that's maybe impossible for most people. Ellis Henderson, veins popping out of his arms, popping out of his neck, as he just hit somebody who was foolish enough to catch a pass in his zone. Cody Fields. This is one of the leanest linemen I've ever seen. He's able to move guys that outweigh him by 125 pounds because of his sheer determination and technique. We're doing perfect. We got no lens flare. Anybody can take my lighting diagram and reproduce what I do. But the fact of the matter is, you have to bring out what's unique about that athlete. You have to bring out what it is that makes him different than everybody else. The technical, the lighting, the camera angles, that's repetition. You see something and say, well, that didn't really work. I'm going to try something different next time. But as far as relating to people, you have to have the will to want to learn something about your subject. That's what I want to emphasize. I want to bring out whatever it is about that athlete that I see, and they trust me to do that. My view has always been, don't stress over what you can't control. So I would say if there's any frustrations, it was in the fact of the early days where I wasn't creating what it was that I saw in my head. What I was getting back on a transparency wasn't what I visualized. But I knew that it was just a matter of time before I was able to conquer that obstacle. It's no different than any other occupation. There are always going to be obstacles, and the better you are at your job, the more of those obstacles you're going to come across, because you're going to start getting the jobs that other people won't even look at. You know, we want the stuff that's hard. We want to be challenged, because that's the other element of photography is if it's all the same over and over again, you burn out. It's impossible to have passion. So if we're not dealing with people and we're dealing with a product, then bring on the hard stuff, because that's what makes our life interesting. We know we're going to get the job done. We want the stuff that's tough. We want the people who are passionate about what they do. We want the stuff that drives us to continue on, you know, perhaps for another 25 years. For someone that wants to get into professional photography, the number one rule is don't take shortcuts. Understand that the learning process takes time. You don't just read a book and know what you're doing. There's no workshop that's going to magically turn you into a photographer. The other thing is get out and shoot. Get your nose out of the books, get your nose out of the magazines, stop taking so many workshops and spending so much time online, and get out and make mistakes. With the number of photographers that are out there today, the ones with great equipment, there's no reason why every high school shouldn't be adopted by one or maybe a collaborative of photographers to document what's happening at that school. Having my sons as my photo assistants is absolutely the best thing that could ever happen to me. They give 110%, they contribute, they challenge me. It's the freshness that they bring. Like I said, no matter how much we think we're thinking outside the box, we're still within another box. We're still constrained by whatever our own filters are. And when you have somebody else that is living outside your box and comes up with different ideas, that's the best thing in the world. As far as the future is concerned, we're just going to keep on the same path we've been on for 25 years, doing the same thing, doing it the same way, and enjoying every minute of it. We're about our clients, we're about the people we photograph, and the legacy that we want isn't so much, oh, I remember Dave Scott, he took that picture. It's 40 years from now, I want these Skyview athletes to look at these pictures and go, that was me back when I attended Skyview High School. You know, I want them to show their kids, their grandkids, this is part of what I was when I was in high school. It's not about me.